Hi, everyone. So for those of you who just joined, you have all of us here. I think maybe before I hand it over to the rest of the guys, I would just give you a short overview on what we do here at Sleek, and then I will pass the mic over to Alex from Payoneer. So let me just share my screen very briefly. Everyone can hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. I'm just going to proceed like you can all hear me, okay? So again, thank you so much for joining the session today. I'm Rachel, the marketing manager here at Sleek Hong Kong. So today I know we're supposed to be talking about e-commerce, but I will just give you a brief introduction about Sleek's story as well as kind of the services we provide. So our founder, Adrian and Julian, launched our company in Singapore in 2017. We expanded to Hong Kong early last year, so 2019, mainly because we were frustrated at how slow and paper-based the incorporation and company registration process was. So since we launched, we have incorporated and helped thousands of happy companies from around the world. To give you a quick overview, a very, very quick one, because I know it might not be the most exciting thing on topic today. So what we cover here at Sleek, a few of our core services include company incorporation in Hong Kong or Singapore from anywhere in the world. We also have corporate secretary packages and transparent pricings that covers all your compliance needs. We also help companies manage their accounting as well as one-off services such as tax filing, audits, as well as offshore or dormant company registration. Like I said, I won't go too much into detail, but feel free to get in touch with me directly after the session if you have any specific questions. So the reason why we think Sleek really stands out from all of our competitors is through building technologies and tools that serve our clients. So all of our services are done through our in-house 100% digital platform where companies can effortlessly manage their entities and access their key company documents 24/7. We also pride ourselves in having a strong customer success team who can understand the pain points of our clients and support them throughout the process. So I think that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed the chit chats from all our speakers, and I will pass the mic over to Alex from Payoneer. Hi, Alex.
Can I mute there? Thanks, Rachel.
Sorry.
Hey guys, I'm Alex from Payoneer. We're an international cross-border financial service. We help guys out in the e-commerce and service provider industry. We provide services to allow you to receive your funds from anywhere you might earn it. For example, if you're selling on a platform or if you're servicing clients directly in foreign currencies. Over here at Asia, our clients usually receive in US dollars or euros, and we help bring those over back to their home countries, whether they be in Malaysia, in Hong Kong, Singapore, or myself, I'm based in the Philippines right now, or Vietnam. So we're a global company based in New York. We've been in this space for over a decade now. And thank you for joining us today in one of our webinars together with our partners over at Sleek. If you'd like to know more about us, please join us over at payoneer.com or reach out to us over at LinkedIn. We're happy to hear your needs as we service your cross-border payment needs. But without further ado, I'd like to turn you over to Mr. Dean Chu, our managing partner of AYIMA, who will introduce our guests for today.
Thank you so much, Alex. Very informative. So my name is Dean Chu. I'm going to be moderating our wonderful panel today. I am the managing director of AYIMA Asia. AYIMA is a full-service digital agency headquartered in the UK. We have offices around the world in San Francisco, New York, Vancouver, Hong Kong, and Manila. So get around quite often, apart from, of course, when travel is banned. And yeah, we service a wide variety of clients, from small financial startups out of Hong Kong to large blue chip American and Chinese conglomerates. I've been in the industry, digital marketing industry, for about 17 years. Of course, you wouldn't know that. As my lovely mother says, I don't look a day over 25, so keep moisturizing every day. And yeah, so that's me. Just before I introduce you to our illustrious guests, Frankie and Joe, I'd just like to remind you guys that you can use the Zoom chat window to send in some questions. We're going to cover about 6, 7, 8 points, hopefully, on our chat today. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat window. We'll try and filter them out, and we'll do a little Q&A at the end. I'll go in alphabetical order. First off, I'd like to introduce Frankie Ng. He is the head lead at Shopify, the head Hong Kong lead at Shopify, a company that probably doesn't need much introduction to many, but for those who aren't super familiar, Shopify is a platform that allows businesses to set up an online store and sell goods. So Frankie, if you please be so kind as to tell a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for having us today. Thanks for the introduction, Dean. So my name is Frankie. As Dean had said, leading the efforts of Shopify here in Hong Kong, as well as Taiwan and some special projects in China as well. So I've been with Shopify for about 4 years, starting off the first 2 years at Shopify working with our enterprise clients. So working with really large brands with our Shopify Plus group, brands like Red Bull, Timbuktu, Kylie Cosmetics, Kanye West, basically a ton of influencers that are moving on to Shopify doing really, really high volumes. But now my focus is on global expansion. So we know that up till now, Shopify has about 1 million brands worldwide using Shopify, but we want to grow that in international markets. I'm based here in Hong Kong. We've got a team in Southeast Asia. We've got a team in China. And so our efforts is localizing products, working with customers and partners to make sure our product feels like it's made for the local market and can reach the local consumer, as well give opportunities for a lot of local brands to reach worldwide. So aside from working at Shopify, I'm a Shopify user myself. So I've run 2 online businesses, one in the beauty industry. Surprisingly, I used to sell fake eyelashes before. And I'm not wearing them today, just these are my natural ones. And then other than that, I used to sell a lot of household goods. So doing that through the drop shipping model, which is growing in popularity in Southeast Asia, popular in the Philippines. But that's kind of my experience with e-commerce, working at Shopify and as well being a Shopify user.
Fantastic. That's quite a lot of experience there. I'm sure that it wasn't just the eyelashes that you were selling and using back in the day. So my other panelist is Joachim Sebastian. He is the founder and managing director at Everpeaks, which is a company I believe is based in Malaysia that provides e-commerce solutions. So Joe, if you could expand on your background and expertise, please.
All right, thanks, Dean. Appreciate the introduction. Again, great of Sleek and Pioneer to organize this and invite us to have a chit chat. Right, share some of our point of views in e-commerce as well. Again, my name is Joachim Sebastian. I'm the founder of Everpeaks. We're an end-to-end e-commerce enabler based in Malaysia. Our focus is on representing and managing brands on the platforms such as Amazon, eBay, Shopify, Etsy, and other marketplaces, some local and some international. Depends on what our clients need. In essence, we replace an in-house e-commerce team at a quarter of the cost with hopefully 10x the efficiency. So that's the selling point, right? I've been in e-commerce for 7 years. Started my journey running my own distribution and manufacturing business, where we sold to 122 countries around the world, mainly focused in the automotive category. And as we expanded, we found that what we've done for ourselves can be applied to other brand owners, and that's where Everpeaks was born. When we first started our journey, we were building on the infrastructure and ecosystem of Pioneer, and after a number of years, Pioneer has decided that, because I asked so many questions, they appointed me as the ambassador for Malaysia. So I've been the Pioneer ambassador for Malaysia for 5 out of that 7 years. So they decided to get me to answer my own questions after that. And again, it's been a privileged journey with Pioneer all this while. And recently we've upgraded to not just me, but now Everpeaks is a Pioneer community partner as well. So we work mainly in the e-commerce industry, supporting government agencies, advisory, consultation, as well as outsourced managed services. very focused on the export e-commerce market.
Wow. So do you actually get any time to sleep during all these times, Joe?
It's one of my goals. It's one of my goals this year. This year we will sleep.
Okay, so yeah, that's great. Thanks both for those introductions. We'll get straight in with some of the points I wanted to discuss. So from IEMA's point of view, we're a digital marketing agency. During COVID, we've seen many of our clients reduce their budgets, clients in sort of air travel and things like that. However, we also, obviously being an SEO company, we very much look at and use tools like Google Trends to see the habits of users, what are people searching for online. And we've noticed that household items and electrical goods, those sorts of search volumes have really started to see an increase during COVID. Something that we would well expect to see continue, these sorts of white goods and appliances, which traditionally bought in stores because they were so big and heavy, are now being bought online. So outside of people being forced to become more familiar with shopping online due to the lockdown, have you guys seen, or do you see any e-commerce trends coming out of this whole COVID crisis? And I'm happy to open that up to whoever wants to jump in first.
All right.
Why don't I kick it off?
Go ahead, Frankie.
And give
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start this one. You start the next one. Yeah. So just in terms of COVID, obviously a very odd and unusual situation to be in for everyone. But definitely in the e-commerce space, it's been a major catalyst to how Shopify has grown, as well as a lot of online retailers have grown overall. We're seeing how Amazon in the US is really dominating the market. We're seeing the transition of online sales representing a total amount of retail sales in a region like the US go from something like 16% last year to about 27% this year. So more than a quarter of total retail sales taking place online now. And that jump from 16 to 27% happened in a matter of 8 weeks. So we can see how transitions like that are forcing companies, forcing brands that are offline to really consider what they're doing with online. So you can look at different search trends. You can look at the macroeconomics. The general thing that we're going to be seeing is declining foot traffic at retail, a near stoppage of all travel tourism. And in Hong Kong, where I'm from specifically, we're just seeing an unrelenting, unwavering cost of rent that will continue to be the same, and is putting a lot of, unfortunately, small businesses have to shut up shop. So now when we look at what's happening online, there's a lot of new sectors that are coming into the e-commerce space. We're seeing F&B and food delivery take place. We'll see companies that were restaurants turn to doing meal kits or prep kits for home. We're seeing hotels sell these kind of staycation packages online, as well as vouchers for dining, where that's available. We're seeing a lot of wholesale distributors skip the middleman and try and go direct to consumer, and I'm sure Joe can probably add to some of that. But overall, it's been a lot of transformation. And one thing that we've been saying at Shopify since the start of this is we've got to throw out our playbook on what we're working on, and instead focus on what's happening in the market and build the Shopify that basically COVID has brought basically everyone's decisions that they would have made over the past 10 years, over the next 10 years to today. So everybody's trying to transform now, and they really can't delay no more. And that's our time to act.
Yeah, interesting. I'll take a different point of view from Frankie over there. Maybe something that our valued participants may want to take away from this webinar or this discussion session, right, is that what we've seen on the ground is that don't get too caught up with the top line category white papers or product categories that are highly in demand on a global scale too much, right? Why I say this is because the opportunity for e-commerce is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. Even the categories that are not mentioned there are hundreds of millions of dollars in value. For instance, almost every client that we manage never appears in those top 8 lists of FMCG goods that are on the highest lists of e-commerce. So don't get disheartened or focus your efforts just on those categories. There are so many different opportunities in between those that if you don't evaluate as a business, you're really losing out. Because, hey, the guy is not just looking out for FMCG goods, and they're not just looking out for electronics or household appliances. He's also looking out for that custom pruning device for his garden. They're also looking out for that rubber play ball for his toy dog or his dog or whatever. So these segmented niches allow you to compete without the flood of e-commerce merchants going into the major categories. So something that you really want to look at is specializing and moving in a niche that you can conquer. So that's something very, very important. If you want success on e-commerce, it doesn't come overnight. It generally, if you're reacting to trends and you're trying to make your way and establish yourself in e-commerce and you're doing it because of COVID, you'll probably get rewards after COVID's over, because it takes some time, right? You don't just suddenly appear on e-commerce and become successful. You've got to invest marketing, you've got to let Google crawl you, you've got to have the right keywords, you've got to optimize and learn what your customers want. But if you are in a niche, don't try to change it straight away based on all these glorious white papers that are going out there. Really look into the actual dynamics of your business, the actual market trends, the actual consumer reactions, and test that with real data. And that's a real key takeaway that I wanted to share with you guys today. It's great. Things are changing. E-commerce is the way to go. Everybody's jumping on it, but everybody's jumping on it at the same time. And they're all jumping on it at the same level. So, you're going to be in a flood. So try to specialize and differentiate yourself.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, Joe. You say that a lot of people obviously are kind of scrambling to get e-commerce sites up. This is a bit of a hard question to answer, but do you have any sort of gut feeling of what sort of percentage of those may go on to be successful?
Damn. Firstly, in our experience, it takes about a year to break even on e-commerce. Even managed by us, we generally use a 9-month timeline for break even. Okay. And that goes with efficient operations, with technology, with scaling and understanding. Most entrepreneurs don't come into e-commerce understanding that. So they come in and say, hey, I want profit next month. Hey, I want to make money. How to make money fast, right? It does not work that way. So you got to really understand the ecosystem, similar to retail, requires investment. And you know what's the real secret of e-commerce? Guess. Everybody gets a guess. Dean, what's the real secret of e-commerce for you?
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps it depends what department I'd speak to.
Just hit it. Just hit it. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
I'd say research myself, personally.
Fair. Very strong point there, research. Frankie, what do you think?
I would say consistency.
Consistency, nice. Rachel? Haha, she didn't think I'd ask her. Haha.
No, I was thinking about it.
Okay,
I think it's like persistency. No, persistent.
Nice.
Like holding it out.
And okay, that's a great point. Alex, what do you say? It's muted. Alex muted. Rachel, unmute Alex. He has an opinion. We want to hear what he says.
Consistency as well. You get bombarded with so much information.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get your information to stick.
Fair. Also an iteration of something. So I'm not saying that I'm correct and everybody is wrong or they're all right in a certain way, but in our experience, the one core factor that is essential for success on e-commerce is time on site. How long have you existed online? That alone is one of the biggest factors of whether you can actually reach anywhere in the first place. This occurs on Amazon, it occurs on eBay, it occurs even on Google crawls, it occurs on your content reputation, all these things. So this one factor is a huge reason why you're successful or not. And you can't shortcut time. You've got to be there. So that's something that, you must take into consideration when you project your e-commerce business.
No, that's a very good point. I think when we work with companies who are looking to bring in a lot of organic traffic through search engine optimization, everybody knows that if you have an authoritative site, if you've been there for a while and Google likes you, something that you publish is going to, let's say you publish a review on a specific product, that's going to rank fairly easily. The little guys, the new guys, they've got a massive uphill battle. So yeah, very, very good point there.
I'm going to chime in and provide another point of view as well, right? So Shopify has seen just waves of companies in the drop shipping space and this kind of new DTC space that have established themselves in a matter of months and kind of leaned away from organic as much as they doubled down on paid marketing, like to an unrealistic amount that probably doesn't pay off ROI in the short term. Very, very different strategy, not necessarily a long-term sustainable strategy, but we definitely see that in the online realm. So, you know, there's definitely the tried and true way and organic way, and then there's that pump it full of money. And, you know, unfortunately, there are some companies that kind of pump it full of money and then have a nice big peak and then fizzle out because they don't hit on that consistency. Yeah. But those that have mastered that that initial push in Kickstarter campaigns and really strong press coverage and really aggressive paid marketing can still get things off the ground. And if they have a good strategy on how to sustain that, then they've kind of built a good model for what we see as the new standard for D2C. But yeah, just providing a counterpoint to where you guys were.
Agreed. I think the answer in the market is a hybrid of the two, right? You've got to have an aggressive strategy. And also, my point of view comes from managing brands that are generally Malaysian based, and we bring them to the US. So there's literally no brand awareness, right? And that's something that you don't want to burn marketing dollar to fight against. You've got to organically or try to educate beforehand. It just pushing ads to convert products at that rate generally leads to losses. So yes, you get sales, but in the end, the ROI is negative across a number of years. So it's a different strategy. Some people build it and sell. Some people build it and flip the business. Some people just have a superbly high margin product that they can afford 60% marketing cost, right? So very, very wide range of variables that you can play with, but just something to be aware of at the very least, right? So hopefully that adds value to your decision-making processes for e-commerce.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic information. Actually, so I'm glad that you brought up budgets because I wanted to kind of touch on the user experience. Like we've got all these people that are scrambling to come into e-commerce, maybe don't have experience setting up websites in the past. We know that the big guys, they spend millions of dollars on conversion rate optimization, A/B split testing, seeing what works on a website, what doesn't. In our experience, for smaller businesses, we found that something as simple as capturing an email address and then following up with email marketing and bringing people back in that funnel has been highly effective. In your experience, we'll go to you first, Joe. What is the best way to benefit from, you know, basically getting the website up, and how do you optimize the user experience and shape a user's journey?
Okay, we've done this a few times, so I'll just share some of the case studies that we've worked on. When we manage brands, we have some brands that also request for us to manage the social media because it's ROI driven, right? We actually do the paid marketing, the Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing for them as part of a holistic plan. And we always add the element of brand discovery and customer, what's the right word? It's customer happiness. When they see the product, they see pictures of it represented, they get excited. You must have that. You must have the ability to incite excitement in your user if you want to create interest. If they're just going to see the picture and click next, you know, you're done. You're done for. So always as part of our growth strategy, there is an education / engagement activities that we generally use Instagram and Facebook for. It's a very visual, very video orientated ads or graphics or content that we publish on the pages, and that leads customers down the funnel, right? So we create a funnel for them to go into, and we capture their email first. So with this process iterated across time, across a fixed ratio of budget, you get to scale organically without losing money. So that's generally what brands are able to cope with, unless they have a certain target revenue that they need to achieve within a certain duration of time. Then of course it's ramp up money, right? And you're gonna make losses, and they understand that it's an investment in the asset where you grow revenue and you grow your burn rate, but at some point you're gonna stop your burning, but revenue doesn't drop equally. Revenue maintains because you've got repeat buyers, you understand the buyer journey, when do they buy again, what products do they buy again, how do they market. And when you have an email database of a certain volume, you get organic sales. You know, you can remarket to the same people again and again with different value propositions. That's really where an e-commerce business truly generates ROI, when you start converting sales without cost, right?
So that sort of repeat customer as well is very important. Once you've got their details on the site, you want to be remarketing to them every channel you can.
Definitely. So omni-channel is the way to go. And in context, most e-commerce companies don't achieve profitability of one sale. Most don't. Unless you really understand your buyer journey and you've built it to be a one-off bullet, then okay, maybe so. But generally, there are always opportunities to increase revenue per customer across a different value proposition. Always. It's just whether you've exploited it or not.
Okay, no, that's super informative. Frankie, I guess Shopify must have trillions of terabytes of data on user experience.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, you guys hit on it quite a bit, which is the conversion funnel. Like whenever you're doing any sort of e-commerce based campaign or running an e-commerce business, it's always thinking about, you know, filling the top of the funnel with people through awareness and content strategy, you know, advertising, not just for the sake of conversion, but advertising for the sake of keeping your brand warm and reaching new audiences, so that, you know, if somebody has seen your brand for the first time, you know, they might not hit the site, but seeing it 3 or 4 times, they might be curious and keep exploring, which then leads to maybe an email capture on the website. You know, to dive into 2 parts of that conversion funnel that I think are extremely important, more my forte is, you know, the on-site experience, how that performs versus consumer expectation is super important to the shopper journey. If you're spending marketing dollars to a website that doesn't work, a website with broken links, a website with poor descriptions, then it doesn't matter. Like, that's just wasted money. So I'm a really big proponent of really high context content that allows users to really understand what they're buying, what other people think of it, because we know that the buying journey just doesn't stop at the website. They might look at a review online. They might look at the Better Business Bureau to see if this company fulfills all their product. They might watch a YouTuber talk about the product. So, you know, I'm making a big purchase soon, which is I'm buying some nice speakers for the home, and I'm watching every video there is on YouTube about them, just to ensure that I know what I'm getting, especially in this environment where you can't go to store and see and feel the product and hear it. So from that high context shopping experience, then you go to things like the checkout. Most of that stuff is really simplified on Shopify, but if you're running your own website, it's thinking about things like how many clicks does it take for the customer to check out? Am I making this as easy as possible? Am I saving their information for future purchase? Am I auto-filling or doing address validation to make it easier for them to complete the checkout? And then in the end, once they get the product, do they feel good about it? Do we have a good return policy if we have any issues with it? And do we make it easy for them to do a review or incentivize them to do a review, so that flywheel of reviews generating more conversions and purchases keeps going? So that's that post-purchase opportunity. And it's about, like you guys had touched on before, it's super important to keep those customers warm and tied to the brand for that second or third or fourth purchase, because that first purchase, you're probably not making a ton of margin. So to wrap that up, it was that on-site experience, that buyer experiences on the website, as well as the post-purchase are both, in my opinion, the more important portion of that shopping journey versus just advertising.
Yeah, exactly. Like even we're actually rolling out the AR experience on one of our Shopify stores.
Nice.
For a new product, so that's really great on Shopify to launch something that improves the consumer experience for the product beyond general expected levels of e-commerce, right? AR changes the ballgame completely, and that was amazing when I tested that out. So we're rolling out one of those products.
Awesome.
Pretty crazy.
There was we just did a thing called the Shopify App Roadshow yesterday. So we had a couple new partners kind of demo their apps for us. There's a company called Forma Tech, which does kind of AR based plugins for Shopify stores. And the data that we took away is that improvement in the conversion rate were anywhere from 10 to 50% just by having that there, because having that widget there, not because people are using it, but because it builds a level of credibility on the site that this buying experience is so immersive that it creates a bit of a consumer, I guess, buyer confidence, which I was a bit surprised on, but I guess, that's what.
And also the virality factor, right? I mean, if you see something cool, you want to share it with your friends. Hey, damn it, look at this. Wow,
yeah.
It's amazing. Everybody wants to be the first one to discover, right?
Yeah, it's a try this out type of thing.
Okay, cool. That's super interesting. It's amazing how technology continues to shape every experience of our life. Things like shopping, getting that almost tactile experience at home. Just before we continue, just a reminder to everybody watching out there, please do keep the questions coming in through the Q&A section. We are collating them and putting them together to the end. So please just, if anything comes in, type it down and we'll get to it. So we've discussed quite a lot about the like small businesses and large businesses and almost that kind of area. But let's say that I'm more of just an individual, or I'm somebody who maybe has unfortunately been out of work due to the COVID, and I'm looking to the internet to try and get some extra income. I was just looking at the cat that was invading.
I'm having a BBC moment. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. So as an individual, if I'm wanting to look at some extra income online, what aspects do you think are probably the most important to consider? And essentially, what do the successful guys do that others miss? I'm happy to either of you to take that first.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So we'll kind of alternate. So for me, I'm a really firm believer in the fact that technology is a great equalizer for everyone. And I think no matter who you are, where you live, what skill set you have, each person has a certain competitive advantage based on where they, like a geography or a skill set that they have. So for me, for example, in Hong Kong, it's really easy for me to go over to China, or it used to be really easy for me to go over to China, source product, find things for cheaper than it would have been back when I was living in Canada. And that's a competitive advantage. And it's also access to talent or resources here that are different from North America. So it's important for people that don't, if you're not working right now, if you're trying to earn some extra income, is to really take an inventory of what it is around you that you can actually draw opportunity from. It might be something that you have as a skill set. Maybe it's your art, maybe it's a recipe. We're seeing a lot of small businesses just thrive just based on those small little experiences and skill set that people have that are different from others, and they find their audience online through these kind of niche groups. It could be a Facebook group, it could be a meetup group, it could be a forum, and they appeal to that subset of audience. And it can, what Joe was saying earlier was, it's these like kind of niche like kind of unexpected categories that end up making a ton of money just by transitioning to online or appealing to a certain audience. For example, I remember that one of the most successful businesses I've seen in the past was, not that I'm promoting them in any way, but like pseudo healing crystals. And that's just something that me and you probably don't think about a whole lot, but there are people that are buying that stuff, and people that know how to appeal to that audience and find that audience online. So my advice there for people that aren't working, find what that is for you, find your unique value proposition and bring that to the market, because setting up an online store is just a matter of clicks now, no coding required with the technology that a lot of these cloud platforms like Shopify are able to do. And for those that maybe are already running a business, take some time to look at what tangent industries might relate to what you're working on. So we've seen a lot of apparel manufacturers diversify their product set to adjust for the demand for masks. I'm not saying that this is always the best idea. Masks is starting to be a really competitive and fast growing space right now, but we've seen brands that are doing fair trade organic cotton masks. I was working with a fightwear brand that's doing a mask for fight and training that's made with more performance-based material. And then we're also seeing companies that work on different gadgets kind of adapt their tools for a work from home environment. So there's opportunity everywhere. And my belief is wherever there's change, there's opportunity. So you guys got to figure out where that is for your company and your skill sets.
Yeah, very eloquently put, Frankie. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, this is it's a topic close to heart as well. But I'm going to take a different point of view here on something that as a fellow entrepreneur for the past 7 years, I consistently see this as a fundamental understanding in the market that sometimes not so accurate, right? So when you have a situation such as this, like the COVID issue, markets changing and things like that, always make your decisions based on fundamentals of the business. Don't make your decisions on technology. Technology is an enabler. If your fundamentals are wrong, it's not going to work, no matter what you do. Technology of a marketplace is still a technology that scales your reach. It's not a technology that makes your product better. So if you have a crappy product, it's not going to do great. So at some juncture, when you're a small seller or a person just starting out, focus on getting a kick-ass, damn good product first. That's the first thing you should do. Then the rest of the ecosystem gets so much better. Because if you have a crappy product or a product that's undifferentiated or a product that's super competitive in the market that everybody thinks is the same thing, you're going to struggle through every phase of scaling, whether it's social media, whether it's a marketplace, whether it's Amazon, eBay, Facebook, Shopify, anything, you're going to struggle with that. So if you are in this scene and you don't know what to do, I think Frankie made a very great point. Look at where you are. There is always opportunity. One of the key things that I found is that look at your local brands, right? Most of the businesses around you actually have no clue about digital. And if you can digitalize them, you represent them in that market and you can make an arbitration revenue, right? You buy from them and sell from them as and when, because they're not willing to digitalize and they're not bothered about it, but there's opportunity there. So you can look at that. Whether it's your local hardware store, it could be, some people in Malaysia actually make a routine purchasing trip to IKEA and buy IKEA products and sell it online and make a ton of money. And there's another bunch of guys who sell coffee from Malaysia, and it's freaking 3-in-1 coffee, like Nescafe coffee, and they export it to the US. And it's like, all right, man, that is insane. So that brings me to the second key point. Again, don't get caught up with all the publications and the white papers and whatever, not about what works and what doesn't. Truly, no one knows everything. Really, no one knows everything. So if you have something that's unique, differentiated, and if you think it's a kick-ass product, go ahead and test it against the market. That's the only true way of understanding whether your product works or not. Don't go ask your friend. Don't go ask this famous Amazon expert, or they may not have ever heard about your product. And if they say, oh, it's not going to work, and you take them for their advice worth, then you're going to lose out on a massive opportunity there.
Yeah, no, definitely a good point. One thing that I did note is that you both kind of spoke about that technology equalizes people, and it kind of gives everybody a level playing field. And we're seeing amazing things like people, as you said, Joe, going to IKEA and then selling online. Mm-hmm. One of the things that it also enables is it brings down borders, right? You can sign up to Shopify and you can sell your goods in Malaysia, Hong Kong, the US, the UK. So I'm kind of interested. So for us, in terms of when we work with companies in China versus companies in the West, Western companies tend to have a very even split budget. They tend to have a budget for SEO, for paid social media, for PPC, and that's kind of very much like an equal split. But for our Asian clients, especially those in mainland China, the budget is extremely weighted heavily towards social media, WeChat, that kind of thing, and almost no budget for traditional SEO or PPC. Joe, you mentioned earlier about how you've had the experience of taking Malaysian brands into the US, and obviously Frankie is has a global view from Shopify. So essentially, my long-winded question is, how do you feel e-commerce differs between global regions? And for me personally, I'm very interested in how that is, especially between the West and the East.
Okay, interesting question. Very, very contextual, actually. So I'll start first on this. In our experience, ultra localization is a core success factor. So especially in Southeast Asia, if you have any e-commerce brand from the US or Europe trying to penetrate Southeast Asia, they generally are in for a ride. Number one, due to the language complexities. Number two, to distribution complexities. Number three, logistics complexities, different rules and regulations, different HS codes and whatever not. So it's a massive amount of complexities from US or Europe to come over to here. And from here to go overseas is the other way around, because none of the brands here are accredited or compliant with the international standards. And that's the flip side of that. So that's on a product perspective. If you talk about an e-commerce perspective or a platform perspective, the strategy is localized based on the country. Most of the Western countries can function on a base language localization, meaning if you're selling to France, don't sell in English, it's not going to work. You've got to translate, you've got to provide French customer support. But generally, the product representation, the pictures, the content, the copy, the platforms are quite standardized versus the other way around. Like if you're trying to sell to Southeast Asia, man, Flipkart in India versus Lazada in Malaysia and, Bukalapak in Indonesia, those are very, very, very different platforms, So the complexities are massive. And that's why most of the trade goes the other way, right? For e-commerce goes the other way. Whereas traditional trade, it comes the other way around. So US and Europe to Southeast Asia is on the traditional export methodologies. And a lot of e-commerce trade goes from our countries overseas. Mind you, it is always going to be an export surplus, right? Because it's cheaper, lower cost, lower currency exchange, promotes exports from Southeast Asia into the Western regions. But brands work the other way around, You're going to see a Nike shoe in every country in Southeast Asia. You're going to see Coca-Cola here, right? So both these dynamics are very important that affect how you choose to execute. But the assets are the same. For instance, if you're growing a brand in US, for a Malaysian brand, you still got a Google Console account. You still got a Google My Business account. You still got a Facebook page. You still got an Instagram page. You still got, all these assets are quite similar. However, when you put your content in, you use Americanized spelling, you localize it as much as you can. And that works.
Okay, good. Just a quick one. If actually no, do you know what? I'll come on to a separate question with that. Sorry, Frankie, if you'd like to.
We're just talking the marketing side or the e-commerce side in general?
I think as a whole, really.
As
I
a
mean,
whole.
like anything that you have a view on.
Yeah, definitely. So just some patterns that I'll see. I'll kind of just highlight some high level insights, less so, into the tactical, but high level, Western markets in terms of digital marketing knowledge and e-commerce skill set for what we call the independent websites, which is the .com websites versus the marketplace, tends to be a lot stronger. We're seeing that Asia is more marketplace focused, so it does take a bit of time for us to get them familiarized with the Shopify operating model of, you've got to set up your own shipping, you've got to capture the payments yourself and deal with customer service. So there is that sense of difference, and definitely in the Asian countries, customer service is a little bit different. Definitely in China, that aspect of post-purchase support, return policy, warranties. Yeah, Joe is shaking his head. Definitely a foreign concept.
What return policy?
Yeah, exactly. And so on the Western side, it'll be, in the US, it might be, hey, this didn't fit you, great, we'll ship you something, plus we'll send you a coupon, plus we'll have a nice email, a nice chat with you in the customer service realm. And in China, you'll write them an email and you won't hear anything back. You'll ship it somewhere and it'll disappear. So it's just completely different in that sense. So we really do have to spend our time educating our merchants. It's always a battle of, should I do the marketplace or set up my independent website? I think people are just generally, across Southeast Asia, especially because it's such a complex market. Marketplaces tend to be a really good first step because merchants don't have to worry about as much. They got to have the product and then they ship it out for the majority of it. Whereas spending your time doing an independent website, if you are not familiar with online, is just too much of a leap as well. And then what else I would say is, generally Western audiences, you're doing it in English, you're going to capture fair share of the market. You're not going to have to do too much localization. Europe, that's like, I don't know how many languages there. That's a crazy amount. Then you look at Southeast Asia and Asia in general. That's also another set of languages. You only function English, maybe Philippines, Singapore, India, and Hong Kong a little bit, maybe. And then the rest is kind of, you start to lose credibility and you're not feeling localized if you're not in that language. And so people tend to have to really hire expertise for that if you're going from west to east. But luckily from east to west, the language barrier and a lot of the localization is much less comparatively. So I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of really interesting trends that I see just from trying to localize Shopify for the platform, the product for Hong Kong and Taiwan, which is an ongoing challenge. And I have a ton of respect for brands that can master that with a really lean team. But it's because the world is closing in. I think every small business, medium-sized business really needs to take into account, okay, localization is not just language. What else do we need to do if we want to reach new markets?
Oh, thank you for that. I think it was interesting that you mentioned about how in the US you if you return something you get a nice email and a coupon. I think a lot of that is thanks to Jeff Bezos and Amazon.
Oh hell yeah!
Certainly wasn't like that in the early days of e-commerce in the West. So amazing how that sort of company has been able to change the culture of almost all e-commerce companies in the West as well.
Well, it's a strategic move, I believe, because you can only operate in that manner at scale. And if that's the standard, they've already cut 3/4 of the competitors away, right?
Yeah, that's very, very, very true.
It is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some good Q&A questions coming in. Please keep any more coming in if we haven't covered anything. Just two more points that I want to discuss from what I would like to know from the panelists. So obviously at the moment there's a lot of very successful e-commerce brands as we've discussed that have benefited from people being home or whatnot. But also there may not necessarily be people who are doing so well also. No matter what kind of bracket you're in, what do you think? What do you think is maybe one or two things that companies should be doing right now just to kind of maintain their brand, just to tread water or keep the brand in the mind of the consumer?
Frankie, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll start. And, let's assume that your brand has already done some sort of business and has customers. I really think that it's important to keep those customer relationships warm. Tap into that and let customers know that you're still around and you're present. And I think if it's a brand that has some degree of loyalty, customers are willing to spend in this kind of COVID situation to let them know, hey, you know what? We count on customers like you to keep our business afloat. It might not be that explicit, but we see a lot of restaurants and a lot of service-based industries that are building up keeping themselves afloat by tapping into that loyalty. For example, we had a really amazing story of a Shopify employee initiative down in New Zealand, which started off with during the lockdown, they were selling vouchers for restaurants to be redeemed at a later date once things reopened. And that business started off with 10 stores, 10 cafes. It then expanded into something like 3,000 plus restaurants and cafes, and sold over $1 million worth of vouchers in under 4 weeks' time. So it's rallying around this customer relationship and loyalty to keep yourself afloat. The other thing I would say is really think about continuing to deliver value at a low cost to your audience that will kind of live and sustain the business in the mind of the target market through things like articles, blog posts, video content. We're seeing brands that were in the fitness space doing a lot of how-to videos, DIY videos for an apparel fitness brand for people to cope with the stay at home. And now people aren't going to probably spend right away because there's nowhere to go. Gyms are all closed, but at least having those videos out builds the brand reputation. It's viral, it's shareable, and it's something that can introduce your brand to newer audiences that may have not traditionally come across your brand in the normal operating rhythm of business. So content plus customer relationships are big in my mind right now.
Okay, nice. All of very strong points there. One of it, content was something I wanted to share, so but I think Frankie's covered it sufficiently well. Two things that I want to add as well would be, first is, number one, you should not be settling for surviving. E-commerce is the biggest thing ever at this juncture. You should be looking at thriving as an e-commerce business. If you're not thriving, ask yourself why, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, understand the unit economics of your business. I think this is very, 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 very important, because a lot of brands out there seem like they're doing great. They're doing massive amount of sales revenue, but I tell you for a fact, 7 out of 10 e-commerce entrepreneurs that I meet are loss-making. What the heck is that? Right? You're making revenue of $1 million, but no one says, I spent $2 million on ads. Shit. Sorry, can't say that. But yeah, so really understand the unit economics of your business. And if you are a burn and grow business, fine. As long as you make an educated guess about it, and it's a decided strategy for your company, and you know what you're trying to do. If you're just gonna burn $2 million on Facebook ads and without any outcome, please, my business is open. Please donate to us as well. We could use some ads. But really understanding the unit economics is essential for any e-commerce business. And don't get fooled by this social media syndrome of companies doing very well and playing that insurance agent ploy. I'm driving a Beamer. I'm doing well. Buy from me. That's rubbish. Look at it. Ask them the core business questions and really evaluate. Most e-commerce businesses are loss-making. That's just a fact of what we've experienced so far.
Dean, you're still on mute.
Dean's muted.
No. Dean, you're muted. Rachel, do you think you can unlock that?
Rachel.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Sorry, I had to run off there quickly. My kitchen nearly flooded, but we're okay now.
Great.
So yeah, sorry, I missed part of that reply, Joe, but I'm sure it was as fantastic as always.
It was.
So we've got some good Q&A questions come in. This is the last question from me before we move on to Q&A. So it'll probably push us about 10, 15 minutes past 5 p.m. So if you've got any more Q&A questions, guys, please get them in now. But yeah, before we do that Q&A, for me, final question from our set, and I know normally we'd have to wine and dine you and spend a lot of money to get this kind of information out. But
yourself included.
Yeah. What you guys first? What is the one super secret tip that you haven't told us already that you would give small e-commerce-based business owners right now if they were face-to-face with you, asking for one thing?
Tough.
you can have 10 seconds to think about it.
I got one. Super secret tip. Be a customer of your competitor online. So if you're new to e-commerce, go through the journey of seeing how it is to be a buyer of your competitor and learn from that. And I would say it not copy, but definitely understand the workflow, what's working for them, especially if there's a clear industry leader, and get to see the type of tone they use, the type of content they put out. What is the purchase experience like? What is the post-purchase experience? So when I used to run my cosmetics business, it was going through a lot of these purchase cycles and seeing what it was like to get the product and then actually receive the product. How was the product packaged? What's the return policy? What's the quality of the product? And I think that information in itself will uncover a few golden nuggets for you, and it'll let you know where you yourself, if you're not good with e-commerce or you have some deficiencies in your operations, you understand where that is. So I really like that as a learning method.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just jump in
with yours. Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly on. I think from a sort of digital marketing point of view, in terms of a bit like Frankie selling products online myself. I'm very much looking to drive traffic organically, or maybe even through Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever. When you have a company like Google, which is absolutely the de facto way of how people find your site online in terms of organic search, if you want to be found, then you kind of have to see what the other guys are doing. Exactly what Frankie said. But there's so much information out there. There is so many people. Free blog posts talking about how Google ranks certain websites, but you can essentially look at those websites, look at the top 10. What do they all have in common? What sort of content are they using? Is it positive? Is it negative? Even technical things. How long is the title? What sort of words are they using in the descriptions to increase click-through? So I appreciate that that's very much the start of the user journey. And we've already established that, repeat selling is where you're going to make your money. But for me, and from our point of view, that tends to be a very, very important part that a lot of people kind of miss. They feel that they can just kind of put something out there and then wait, and then ultimately it will be there. But you have to see what is working for the competitors.
Interesting. So you're giving me a hard time, right? You guys got all the good points out and then you passed the line.
That's why I jumped in, Joe. I was like, I'm not going to have anything if he goes.
I got tough ones. Okay, because of that, I'm not going to be the nice guy and give you a nice, happy little tip, right? So I'm just going to be upfront and practical about it. If you don't have the resources to run an e-commerce business, don't. You will fail, right? You need marketing, you need product, you need manpower, you need time and understanding. Any missing component is something that you can overcome with money, but you cannot overcome the business itself, right? If you don't have it, it will not work. You can pay someone to have it, but you can't work without it. So content, copy, all these add a small percentage of increments, and there's a threshold of successful e-commerce. And you add all these together, you might have a chance. But if you don't have the resources for it, don't go into e-commerce thinking a drop shipping business is gonna, make you a killing and a millionaire without putting in the work, the due time, the effort, and the learning, as well as the resources. So be practical about it. Nothing in life comes free. If it comes free, it's probably fake. Okay.
No, that's very blunt, but very, very useful advice, and a nice twist on our answers.
So just did a mic drop there, I think.
Well, before you get off and leave your chair, we've got 5 or so questions from the Q&A. I'll just kind of read them as they have come in. So let me just find my notes. Okay. So the first one is from Gilbert. Does the future of e-commerce look bright and exciting post-COVID? Now, I would just simply say yes, because of everything that we've discussed. But I'd like you guys to obviously go in further detail. If you'd start us, please, Joe.
Yeah, for me, I would say that our sales have increased during COVID. I did a presentation with Pioneer about 3 weeks back where I showed statistics of our clients, and they're not in the medical devices, nothing to do with, masks or gloves or whatever, not that you can expect a spike on. These are unrelated categories in automotive, collectibles, home decor, shoes, and whatever not. It's going up. So statistically, it's proven. But it's not within those categories that you see shouted at, oh, great, exercise products and, self-care and whatever not. It's not that. There's so much opportunity there. Just go grab it. It's on the way up, and I don't think it's coming down.
Fair point. Frankie?
Yeah, so I'm the e-commerce guy, so I always am super optimistic about where we're headed post-COVID. Definitely going to be, COVID itself is a big catalyst to drive innovation for what's happening in e-commerce. We talked a little bit about AR, but I've seen some implementations of VR, which is kind of costly, but very experimental, that are really exciting. I've seen implementations of new ways that products are getting customized on demand, being sent to consumers. So all of this demand that's going online is going to decrease the actual cost, per unit cost of some of these products. That's going to make it more innovation happen, more selection happen for consumers. So I think all in all, for merchants and consumers alike, it will be a very exciting time. But one thing that I think will be challenging will be continuing marketing costs, rising marketing costs. And we saw, I mean, just to bring in this topic, it's really interesting how this proliferation of online is driving conversations like the US Congress antitrust discussion that happened yesterday between how Google, Facebook, Amazon are owning a lot of these channels. So it's very, very exciting and bright, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens with some of these really big players that control the space.
Definitely.
Yeah, very, very much so. I'll probably, they're so big that maybe nothing happens, but
yeah, my bet is nothing will happen. But us as consumers, as users, as players in the market, we got to be aware of what's happening and stay on top of things. And yeah, try and drive change through our actions if it's not going to happen up there.
Absolutely. They say necessity is the mother of invention, right? So lots of innovation coming. Okay, thanks for that. So Francois, sorry if I've mispronounced your name. He asks, is the conversion rate ratio of web visitors to purchase one of the most important metrics for the efficiency of an e-commerce website? It's quite an analytical question there. So maybe you're better poised to answer that one, Joe.
All right. So your question is the conversion rate the most important metric for efficiency of the e-commerce website? No, hell no, hell no. What's the best rate of efficiency? Guess.
Sales.
Sales versus
Product.
spend. Simple.
Sales versus
Keep
spend.
it simple.
Yeah, that's
Sales
right.
versus spend, right? Everything else is just a derivative of that. If you spend $1 and you make 2, you got a 50% ratio, right? If you spend $1, you make 3, it's 33%, you know? As long as your unit costs are calculated in the right way, there's no real right or wrong answer. It's based on how you structure your product. So it is an important ratio. Conversion rate ratio is an important ratio because it measures how efficient your funnel is. But how efficient does your funnel need to be is also an important question. So you set that up. So some of the products that we have a 97% gross profit margin. So I'm not going to reveal what it is, but it has a 97%. So we can afford a 60 to 50% marketing ratio. It works. And we can scale up to 5-10 million US dollars a year or whatever not, and it still works, right? So it depends on how you structure. There are many important ratios and important metrics. The key ones are going to be impression, clicks, sales, and then the rest of the 3 ratios between this, and you can work the rest all out.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I was hoping that your 97% product was going to be the single secret tip you was going to tell us about.
Oh, no. Yeah, it could be, but you know, it's going to cost you 1 million ringgit.
Yeah. I'll be in Malaysia next year, so we'll see what we can do.
For sure.
Sorry, Frankie.
I'll add one thing to that, and you know, Joe answered it perfectly, but I'll just give an example here in conversion rate ratio and why there's big differences. All right, mattress company that sells a $2,000 US mattress, their conversion rate is going to be 0.3, 0.4%, very, very low because it's a high cost product, long time to purchase, a lot of visitors to the website, but still a very profitable company. On the other hand, I've seen drop shipping companies that sell keychains that are free plus shipping. Free plus shipping is going to give you a 70%, you know, let's say it's a 70%. Sometimes it'll be more or less, but very, very high conversion rate. But it's no profit. It's a lost business. And what they're doing is trying to buy emails and that kind of stuff, or trying to upsell you into something else. But, you know, those, if we look at conversion rates, and just purely on that, you think one is better than the other. Of course not. It's that, you know, sales to cost ratio that really matters, which Joe touched on before. So don't just focus on conversion rate, which of course varies by industry as well.
Okay, great. I'm going to mix up the questions a little bit, just so they're in a slight different order as they came in, just to flow slightly better. So one of the anonymous guys says, what advice would you give to young people who'd like to try their own startup, but essentially are worried about budget?
Don't. Don't take my word for it. Sorry, go ahead. I had to interject.
No, Frankie, you jump in on that one first.
Yeah, I'm big on young people starting their own business. So for people that want to start a business, you know, I used to say drop shipping, that was kind of a boilerplate answer. But I think where there's opportunity now is look at industries that are traditional and unsophisticated with technology, and try to build that gap for those businesses to reaching online. You could look at local mom and pop shops that are, you know, have a long history, but are probably not going to be the ones building website. Deliver that type of value for people. And that's kind of your advantage, is you can do that without taking a lot of upfront costs. Walking into an older retailer and just saying, hey, I'll do the online for you, and kind of hopefully you'll pick up those skills and you know how to do it. But I think there's always a good exchange of doing that with fairly low risk and delivering value to an audience that would probably not do it themselves.
I think that's a great answer. I guess if this question was being posed maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the barrier to entry would be a lot higher, right? We're kind of we've got platforms like Shopify. If you want to do it yourself, you can kind of install WordPress. So I would say that if you have a skill, maybe, you know, everybody, you know, wants to be an entrepreneur, but there's probably something that you have a skill at. Maybe you can write well, maybe you can speak well, maybe you do a little bit of coding. That reduces your costs significantly. And then from there, I mean, there's virtual assistants all around the world in, you know, places like the Philippines and Malaysia. So, you know, you can hire people on a very specific per project basis. So, you know, these budgets, they don't have to be like they were before, where you had to have a huge amount of capital and you had to bring people in and pay them daily. You know, you can spread that out across virtual assistants around the world, and that tends to reduce costs in my experience. Joe?
Okay. I'm going to say, being an entrepreneur for 7 years, building a team from a 3-man team with my own bare 2 hands to a 22-man team right now, I'd say be very careful. You don't know what you're getting into. No one does until you actually start it. My advice is to go hook yourself up for 1 year with a startup. Go work for someone who's actually a startup to understand the nuances. And when I mean work with someone, go and work with the boss, work with the founder, work with the CEO directly, help him get stuff done. There are plenty of them around. Go and learn what it takes first. You'll be so much more prepared, because the real game in entrepreneurship is a mental game. It's not a skill thing. A skill thing, you can pick it up. You can learn, you can pivot, you can get money, but if your mentality is wrong, if your emotional stability is wrong, it will break you. So be in for the real ride, and it is not a glorious journey as what they say it is, you know? Just be prepared for that. That's my advice to you guys.
I totally agree, Joe. I was actually surprised the amount of time I spent by myself just working on a business. A lot more lonely than those YouTube videos with the Ferraris and the mansions make it out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not the case for 99.9% of us who have tried to do things like that on our own. Okay,
sorry, just to add, Dean, bear in mind, e-commerce and entrepreneurship are 2 very separate things, yeah? E-commerce is something else, entrepreneurship is something else. They overlap in execution. They're very, very different things. So just to make sure we're clear about that.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very, very good point. Okay, so that comes on nicely onto our next question. So, you know, you've done the whole startup thing. You're getting going. How do you have any tips for sellers who are looking to expand from just like a 1-man team to you know, growing, essentially when you're in that sort of growth area, I guess, of your startup?
Yeah. So again, with I'm very immersed in the investor VC scale-up startup scene within Malaysia as well. So that's the place that we operate in. So quite passionate about this particular topic. You know, with the advent of the issues with WeWork, you know, the Vision Fund and the SoftBank going boom, essentially, with the Wirecard issues and whatever not. So these massive things have occurred that has affected entrepreneurship, has affected fundraising, has affected scaling, has affected the way that companies burn and grow. Now you don't see a lot of investors being very keen on burn and grow companies. You know, you need to start showing profit. There is a real path to success, and you need to measure your burn rate and your loss making rate. Your cumulative losses per year needs to be controlled within a tolerance rate, or you're not going to get the investment. They will put clauses like this in. So at the start, at the get-go, the basics of business must be sorted out. Your unit economics. How much do I buy this for? How much do I sell? What are the platform costs? Which are the distribution channels? What's my acquisition cost per customer? What's my lifetime customer value? All these elements need to be thought through. You may not have it at the start. You may not get it right. That's most cases, but you have to go through the thought process. Many companies that I interact with don't even have a yearly budget. How are you going to scale a company if you've got no budget, right? You've got to do your planning, you've got to do your financials, and these are all the different elements that is going to affect your journey as an entrepreneur. So just be aware of all these different elements and understand that it's not so easy to scale up your company, but how it works right now is you scale your company with revenue generation. So you close the sale, you hire a person. You close the sale, you hire the person. You stretch your team, you hire the person. Then you get through the first gap of a 5-man team. Then you start scaling at a different level. So companies have a very structured growth curve. When you're a $100,000 US per year company, you operate a certain way. You're a $500,000 US company, you operate a different way. You're 1 million, you operate a different way. You're 10 million, probably have a co-sec, you probably have a HR team, you probably have a finance team. So these are very staggered growth mechanisms. You can't, at the start, hire a HR team. You die, right? They're non-revenue generating and they're not helping you grow the business, and they're just a cost center. So these are all elements that you really need to understand. I hope that those who are looking to start a company, maybe park yourself, get a mentor that has a proven track record of, you know, guiding early stage entrepreneurs. It's a fundamental need and a gap in the ecosystem right now.
Okay, that was a very expansive and thorough answer with some excellent points in there. Frankie, we're just conscious of the time, so we'll skip on
no
to
problem.
the next question. I think this one's probably a good one for you. What do you think is the biggest no-no for a seller? Like, you know, basically what's something that you really need to avoid doing?
I think a big no-no, there's a lot of big no-nos. I mean, you could say, don't ship them, don't forget to ship the product or package it nicely. But I think one thing that is a no-no that will definitely get you in trouble over the long term is misrepresenting your product and over-promising and using images that are a little bit over photoshopped and paying for reviews, paying for followers in social media. All of this stuff, you know, there's no quick path to this. And something like paying for followers and stuff has its consequences over the long term. Like, it will make your data, you know, when you're doing targeting and that kind of stuff, it'll ruin your data. It will create this kind of black mark on yourself for kind of the longevity of the business. So, you know, what I say is be honest, be transparent, represent your brand correctly. And that's kind of half the battle. And at least people that get the product in the end, you know, got what they thought they were going to get, and not some made up or, you know, over promised good.
Okay. Yeah. No. Very, very, very good points. So we'll go back to Joe for this one. The question is, what about the security? What does the security environment look like for the ideal e-commerce for the Southeast Asian market? Now, I'm not sure if that is talking about digital security or whether it's talking about the shipment of goods and keeping that secure. I'm not sure if you want to take a stab of either of those, Joe.
Sure. I mean, I'll go over general. I mean, I don't work in the security business, right? Yeah, I'm not providing bodyguards and stuff like that, so I'll skip that part. But in terms of building an e-commerce asset, take a long-term approach or long-term view approach to things. If you work with established brands such as Shopify, such as Amazon, such as DHL Express, you won't go wrong because they set an industry standard in terms of how they operate. In my early years as a manufacturer, I did build a site on, if I'm not wrong, Drupal, right? So I built a Drupal site and it got hacked. And I had my financial payment gateway intervened with, is that the right word? Because it was a shared server space. They hacked into a different site and they went in. So when you work with companies such as Shopify, all these security issues, maintenance issues, scalability issues are removed from the equation. You can just focus on building a good business, right? So that's one of my core points. Work with established brands with a track record and a brand reputation. For instance, I just pay attention to, I think, some of the issues that have been occurring in the e-commerce industry recently. The Payoneer issue, the Wirecard issue, right? Gonna bring it up. But I thought that, hey, because Payoneer is a brand that, again, is of repute, they have operated within a certain parameter, they're compliant, they're legally bound to countries' regulations. They did everything they could to secure their customers' security, and I thought they did a damn good job handling the issue, which was actually nothing to do with them, right? It's not their fault, but it's a partner that got affected. And they secured their clients at risk to themselves regardless of the cost. It's not a blanket thing that I say, oh, I'm just going to support you for a small amount of money. They say, I will support you and be there for you. And that's what you get when you work with established brands. So whether it's your platform, whether it's your delivery partner, whether it's your payment gateway, work with established brands. They save you a lot of heartache, and at least you know whatever you've built is not going to disappear.
No, that's fantastic. And then John just said, what about WooCommerce? I can say that I've used WooCommerce a lot, and just going what Joe said, you know, if you're using a piece of software or a system that is established, that is updated regularly, as long as you remember to update it as well, you know, you're probably going to be okay in terms of security.
Sorry, it was Joomla. It was Joomla. Yeah, not Drupal. It's Joomla. That's right. Man, terrible.
And then Rachel, sorry, did we just have one more about Shopify in Hong Kong features, or?
I think Frankie
I've gone ahead
managed
and
to answer
answered that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just separately.
Thank you, Frankie. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's all our questions. Yeah, I thought that was an awesome little chat. Some really amazing insights there from you two guys. So, thank you so much. And from my point of view, thank you for Rachel for organising this, and Alexander for kicking us off with Payoneer. I hope that we get to come back for another chat.
Oh, nice. You're welcome to come back whenever. Thank you guys so much for speaking today. I know we overran, but we still have a lot of attendees on. So thank you for everyone who stayed with us, and we'll send through some sort of recap, and the recording will also be on YouTube. If you want to connect with any of the speakers, okay, or not on YouTube, but if you want to connect with any of the speakers, Dean has included everyone's LinkedIn URL, so feel free to ask any questions or reach out to them. But that's it for today. Thank you guys so much again, and hopefully we can do another one sometime soon. Maybe.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'll leave it at that.
Thanks,
Thank
Rachel.
you guys.
Thanks everyone. See you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.